Hello and thanks for watching. In this month's V-Mail, our camera crew hits the road to bring you the story of very special lumber that's being used in the building of Brownwood. Lumber that, like our fabled town, is hundreds of years old. Yes, construction is continuing at Brownwood and Paddock Square, and Superintendent Danny Tilton is here to give us a Phase 1 overview. And as always, we're excited to share some history with our residents, as well as some fun facts and folklore. So put on your hard hats. It's time for the building of Brownwood. We're in the woods north of Micanopy, Florida today, and it's the home of the Goodwin Heart Pine Company. It was founded by George and Carol Goodwin in 1976, and what the Goodwins do is they recover 200-year-old logs from the bottom of riverbeds, and they transform those logs into beautiful and sturdy lumber using their very own sawmill. Why is that important to you? Because you're going to enjoy the uniqueness and beauty of this very special wood in Brownwood. That's right, on Paddock Square in such buildings as the Log Cabin and the Citizens First Bank building. And today we're going to go through the whole amazing river recovery process with George and Carol. So we're joined now by Carol. And Carol, how are you?
Hi, Gary. It's good to see you.
Oh, it's neat to be here. I've never seen anything quite like that.
Welcome to Goodwin.
Well, thank you. Let's start at the beginning. What makes this wood that's been on the bottom of rivers for hundreds of years so special?
Gary, it depends on what somebody wants. If they want something that's beautiful, that's natural, that's lovingly prepared, we love providing this wood from Florida's history to places like Brownwood. We're so excited about the Paddock Square.
Well, we're excited too, because this is special stuff. Now, how did it get on the bottom of the rivers? I have to ask that.
Well, we're just lucky. Some of the best logs were often the ones that sank. They would use the rivers to transport the logs. There just weren't that many miles of railroad. So the divers are looking for something that's really tight grained, and if they have an axe cut bottom or a V-shaped end, that's a really good sign, because that means it was cut before the 1880s.
Oh wow, okay, so they were floating them down the rivers. Some of them sank or weren't recovered. Pretty neat. Now your company is called Heart Pine, and I know you also do Heart Cypress. What does the heart mean? What's the difference between heart pine and regular pine?
Well, the heartwood takes, in the case of the longleaf pine, about 200 years to become even 2/3 heartwood. And all of Goodwin's heart pine and heart cypress are all 100% heartwood.
Wow.
So you're getting something that's really durable.
This is the good stuff, and it's not going to be here forever, right? There's a limited supply of this kind of wood.
That's true. There's a limited supply. Fortunately, we continue to find more logs every winter season. The water brings up a few more. Now, I didn't tell you about the cypress. That wood is so uniquely fine-grained. We've found logs that were over 1,700 years old. That's going to go on the siding for the grandstands in Paddock Square. People are going to be able to see wood that's part of Florida's history.
Oh, it's like going back in time, but we're going to now look at a piece of fairly modern equipment. Let's go over to the lumber mill and let's see what George does.
Oh, I love watching him saw wood.
Let's go. Well, I've ambled over from the sawmill log pond, which well, what are those logs doing there, George?
That's our long-term storage facility.
Oh, you want the logs there?
Absolutely.
In the water.
Once the logs are brought out of the river, they come here by semi-truck.
Okay.
If we're going to store them, we'll put them in our log pond, which we dug about 12 years ago just for that purpose, to store logs, to keep them from drying out and decomposing. Next step is to scale the logs, where we measure the diameter and the length and determine what their value is. Next step is to buck them in, cut them with chainsaws into what our saw log length. If we have special needs, then we'll cut longer lengths, but basically we cut 8s, 10s, 12s, 14s, and 16s. From there, next step is to power wash those logs to get all the sand and debris off of them from the river. Next step from there is the sawmill. Now, I'm fortunate enough to run our sawmill. Good job. I get to see every log, the first person to see that log, the inside. These logs, most of them were cut down by axe, which dates them prior to the 1880s. They started using crosscut saws, which will give you a square bottom on a log, prior, in the mid-1880s. So most of these logs were cut down after the Civil War, but prior
Wow.
to the 1880s. It was a big...
And each log is different, right?
Absolutely. Some of it, I mean, they're all different sizes, different shapes, but the grain in each one, there's some definite consistencies, but everyone's different. If you're a wood nut like I am, then I have a good job.
This saw is a little bit different than the one in my high school wood shop.
This is a band saw. It's a band head rig. Yes, sir. It's got that blade is 30 feet long and 7 inches wide.
Got a few moving parts too.
Absolutely.
Now, George, we're talking about wood that someday we're not going to have any of it. So how important is that calculation and the precision with which you've got to, I mean, you just don't cut willy-nilly, I'm sure.
The expense and the trouble of recovering these logs dictates that we take extreme caution and extreme care and get the very best grades and the most yield that we can get out of these logs. In other words, we really squeeze them in the process. So anyway, we're trying to save wood. It's very scarce and rare.
George, have you thought ahead about, a few months, a year from now, when you and Carol walk on to Paddock Square, Brownwood, and you see your wood
that came out of our log pond? Yeah,
you thought about that?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be really beautiful.
I think so too. You're like a proud papa.
Exactly.
Thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Folks, just remember that authentic Paddock Square in Brownwood, that 150-year-old Florida cracker town, has been built with 150-year-old authentic Florida lumber. It's all for you villagers in that one-of-a-kind place, Paddock Square. And who knows, maybe you'll see George and Carol there and you can thank them yourself. Coming up next, Danny Tilton gives us a construction overview of Phase 1 right here in Brownwood when we return.
Heart pine wood can be seen in George Washington's Mount Vernon home and is over 250 years old, and it's still walked on every day.
Today we're coming to you from the heart of Brownwood. In fact, it is at this very spot, the ticket window of the fabulous Barnstorm Theater, that Danny Tilton and I brought you the very first Building Brownwood construction update. Well, backed by popular demand, it is the man himself, Edward Superintendent Danny Tilton. Good to see you again.
Hey Gary, how you doing, boss?
I'm doing good, and you've been doing a bunch, because last time I was out here, the trusses were going up, and my goodness, you're way past that now.
Well, looks like we're doing a little bit of everything. On this iron you seen last time we were here, of course, we got some 2x12 rafters up here in a manner to accept some old barn tin that goes on the outside. We don't want to put that up yet until we finish painting above it, which is the hardy board. We're caulking it out right now and applying it at the same time. We're fixing to paint it next week. And once we paint it all up, we're going to then apply the metal.
Danny, I'm seeing some kind of interesting color schemes on the outside of this building. Well, what's going on with the painting?
You got some unique individuals that's coming around this building with some pretty interesting stuff.
It looks like the familiar signature of an artist who's done some pretty incredible stuff in the villages already, and we'll leave it at that. But
there you go.
Yeah, it's really taking shape, and the outside's going to have a very special rustic look, isn't it?
Very rustic, very rustic.
He didn't say the M word, but I'm thinking we might see some pretty special murals out here. Okay, you got to stay tuned to find out. But right now, I want to walk out the front door and go across the street and see what's going on at Paddock Square. Will you give me a little overview there?
Let's go check her out.
All right, I'm game. So here at Paddock Square, we got a little bit of an introduction last month from Ted Graham. He told us what's going to be going on here. Guys are pretty busy. What are they doing?
Well, what we got going on right here is they're putting up these block walls in this particular unit to get ready to form up the concrete, the big poured in place concrete, a little different than normal work, to hold up all the seating in this particular pad. They're doing the underground, getting ready to pour the foundation, similar to that one exactly, basically opposite hand.
Oh, with all this work that's going on here, it's kind of making me tired, so let's go over to the bunkhouse. Maybe I can flop out for a little bit.
Come on, let's go, let's go.
Well, we're over here at the bunkhouse, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be doing any snoozing, because this is going to be a hopping place of retail for shopping, dining, all sorts of great stuff.
What we got going on here in this 22,000 square foot unit at the moment is we're setting up your trusses. We're plywooding the back of what we call a mansard, which is simply half a truss, because we hide all the equipment behind it that you don't know is running and cooling this building. And we're stick framing on down to the east. As you can see, we're framing walls. At the same time, we're applying roof sheeting. At the same time, we're drying in.
Well, if you want to talk beauty, we got to stroll across West Torch Lake Drive here, because you talking about beautiful. I am looking at the Palace Hotel, which is going to be the sales and information building, and it is something else, as well as the Manley building adjoining it, which will be housing the design folks that will help you build your dream home. So tell us a little bit about what makes the Palace Hotel extra special.
I think this particular unit on the end, this octagon we have here, is going to be the focal point of this unit and off the square.
Oh, that's beautiful. Tell me about that brickwork. It looks like nothing I've seen before.
What you got here is some arches that we build in a manner where we don't use any bent iron underneath it. We use forms. And this alleviates the displeasure of looking at a piece of steel holding up brickwork when it could be done without it. And that's why we've taken the time to reinforce these from inside where you can't see it, but yet it'll maintain where it stays and look the way it does.
I noticed you let me do a little bit of rock work earlier, but you didn't let me put any of these bricks up. Am I not qualified?
That's correct, sir. That's correct. It's got to be right, sir. It's got to be right.
Don't beat around the bush there. So now, whenever I see anything in the village that's extra special like this, I know that inside it's going to be pretty neat too. Is that the case with the Palace Hotel?
Yeah, I can go a little bit through there. You got some marble banding over some beautiful flooring. We got some LED backlit stained glass ceilings, some fireplaces. It's amazing in there. It's amazing. Very high end.
You're putting me on sensory overload. We'll have to check in on that on future shows. Well, let's amble down the road and see what else you've got going on here on West Torch Lake Drive.
Let's take a cruise, sir. Let's take a cruise.
Well, moving right along on West Torch Lake Drive, we have come to the Rose Building, and again, a very special building because this is where folks are going to be closing on that dream home they've purchased. Adjacent to it, the Weechens Building, retail, and then next to that, the Schmidt House, which will be the bank.
Well, what you got going on behind us here is the metal studs on the facades, the front of the buildings. The trusses are going on. The plywood's going on the trusses. We're drying in.
Now, Danny, in most communities, a bank is just a bank, but in the villages, banks are something special, and I'm sure that's the case here with the Schmidt House as well. Tell me a little bit about what's special about that building.
Well, what was unique, in my opinion, about that particular unit was the vault. It had to go in first, and then we built around it. It was a little bit unusual, but typical of a bank.
Just like everything here at Brownwood, practical, beautiful. Folks, you're going to love it. We want to thank Danny Tilton, the super, for joining us, and we look forward to next time, Danny, as we show people the Building of Brownwood.
Thank you, Gary.
Don't go away. We have a lot more history to share, so stay tuned.
You will find on any given day a variety of 20 different trades and over 200 construction workers helping to build Brownwood. Brownwood, Phase 1. Let's take a bird's eye view of the progress happening in our new town, starting with the square. The Paddock Square. Paddock Square originally consisted of all the structures associated with K.O. Atlas's cattle operation and will soon join Market Square and Town Square as your place for free entertainment 365 nights a year. The Palace Hotel. The Palace Hotel first served as a boarding house turned country inn and eventually included the real estate office of W.G. Brown and will soon become home to the village's newest sales and information center. The Barnstorm Theater. The Barnstorm Theater was one of the first structures to be built in Cowtown, along with the paddocks and holding pens near the Atlas home, and will ultimately transform into your destination for the latest movies straight from Hollywood to you. The Bunkhouse. The bunkhouse was once occupied by the growing number of ranch hands working in this bustling cattle community, and over the next several months will be transformed into even more shopping and dining for your enjoyment. The Manley Rose and Weechens Building. The Manley Rose and Weechens buildings offered a variety of services ranging from a school of fine arts and a doctor's office to a barber shop, gun shop, and saloon. Look for Matlin Burnside law offices and others to occupy these buildings along West Torch Lake Drive. The Schmidt House. Finally, the Schmidt House played various roles in money lending and banking throughout the years and will continue in that capacity as Citizens First Bank, serving villagers from their new home in Phase 1 of Brownwood. The Schmidt House was initially occupied by German immigrant Gunter Schmidt, who operated a thriving money lending business prior to his demise during a collection dispute. It became a bank in 1911 and still serves in that capacity today.
So there you have it, folks. Now you are in the know. And remember, keep checking your email because next month we will bring you another exclusive as we continue to follow the building of Brownwood.